Hello to everyone. Welcome and thank you for logging in for our webinar today. My name is TJ Cantwell and I'm the Executive Director at the NCCCO Foundation. At the NCCCO Foundation, we are working to improve the load handling industry through research, education, and workforce development programs. Today, we'll be discussing engaging and recruiting youth into the crane industry. We'll conduct a short Q&A at the end of today's presentation. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A feature on your Zoom window to submit them, and we'll address as many as possible at the end. Please note that today's webinar is being recorded. By the end of our time today, we hope you will have a better understanding of the perceptions of young job seekers about the crane industry and some ideas about how to best communicate with them regarding potential careers in this industry. Our featured speaker today is Ms. Hannah Bullard, Senior Manager of Partnership Development at Tallo. After graduation from James Madison University, Hannah has spent her entire professional career within the education industry, working with educators, state leaders, business, industry officials, and post-secondary institutions from across the country, all with the mission of creating strong pipeline development and connecting opportunities with early talent. In Hannah's role at Tallo as the Senior Manager of Partnership Development, she works hand in hand with national, state, regional, and industry ecosystems to build scalable programs connecting the students of today with their future careers. Hannah is passionate about cultivating creative strategy for all industries to connect with early talent and ensuring all talent has access to educational and career-related opportunities. Thank you for being with us today, Hannah. Please go ahead and share your knowledge and findings of our recent survey with this eager group.
Great. Thank you so much for having me and Tallo in general here today, TJ and NCCCO Foundation. We are so excited to be able to just share a little bit more information about Tallo and the importance and strategy behind connecting with early talent. So as TJ shared, I spend all my days speaking to companies, organizations, colleges and universities, workforce initiatives on the importance of getting in front of talent early and often to grow a strong pipeline of interested talent. So our plan today is to give a little bit of a background about Tallo, right? That lends to our credibility. I can't just come on here and say, this is what you guys need to do in order to connect with early talent if you don't understand the background about Tallo and how we've been around for 10 years and some of the cool initiatives that we have going with clients and our overall population today. From there, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into perception of the crane industry. TJ and I actually had the opportunity to connect a little bit earlier this week and look through some of the data. It's very interesting and very telling. It aligns really well with other industries that we do perception with, and the importance of just getting in front of them, and they don't know what they don't know. The amount I say that every week is just so true. So we'll kind of dive into the perception, what we heard, and feedback that we can give you based off of those findings, and then some just general information about Gen Z. We are the only platform that has early talent. So the only requirement for our talent is to be 13 years of age or older. So what we do is we always outreach to them to find out how they want to be connected with their job opportunities, right? And so that I can come into meetings like this and share knowledge to be able to strategize with different teams on how to meet them where they're at. So no, not too surprising, but they don't want future employers to be on TikTok or Instagram, right? They want you to be on a professional presence like Tallo or LinkedIn, and they like to be communicated by email. So we'll go ahead and walk through some of those strategies, just overall how to connect with this generation of talent. So to start out, who is Tallo? So Tallo is a digital connection platform. So what we do is we work with early talent to be able to bring them every type of opportunity early and often so that they can make a decision on what educational and career pathway best fits them. So our goal is to work with colleges, companies, organizations, workforce initiatives to get all of that knowledge, all of that opportunity in front of them directly. So no school district in between it. You're directly connecting with the user in order to promote your opportunities. So as I mentioned in the beginning, the only requirement is that our talent has to be 13 years of age or older. From there, what they do is they build out a digital resume. So they tell us what they're interested in doing, where they see themselves going, how they see themselves getting there. And from there, we match them with those relevant opportunities. So of course, we're promoting all day long internships, apprenticeships, co-ops, but we also do a lot of different types of events and opportunities to gain brand awareness. So healthcare month, STEM season, internship and apprenticeship week, all different ways for our partners, both at the industry level, at the company level, collegiate level, or organizational level, to get in front and share about their opportunities. As I said, talent just does not know what they don't know. And we've seen through the data that the earlier you get in front of them, the more chance and the more opportunity that they're going to consider your career path or your particular education path. We've been around for over 10 years. So again, we've done this for a lot of different partners, and we're really excited to continue with that mission of also being an equalizer. So I know we have people joining us all across the US today. So we are located in all 50 states. But with that, being completely free for our talent and our users, we want people in rural Iowa or Center City, Philadelphia to be able to come on to Tallo and be able to match with opportunities. So again, never hit a paywall and never age out. I think it's important to show our partners because we do a lot of different services. And with that, we work with a lot of different organizations. So you'll see some of those really large student-focused organizations on the top of the screen. So we've got Project Lead the Way, HOSA, Future Business Leaders of America. They use us as their central technology. So they funnel in all of their members. They're able to continue conversation, track their alumni, and then corporate partners can come on and promote opportunities specifically to this talent. Colleges use us as a traditional recruitment and enrollment. So a school of engineering, a school of business, a technical school, a community college, they can come on here and share about their programs and recruit directly from the platform. Companies come to us for all different reasons. So we, of course, promote internships, as I mentioned, apprenticeships, entry-level job opportunities. But just like we did with NCCCO, we really help with perception because you cannot successfully recruit talent without understanding the perception of your company or your industry. So for example, and some of the examples I'll use throughout as I share your perception, Walmart is one of the biggest IT employers in the country. Who knew, right? When you think of Walmart, you might think of the actual retail store. You might think about the pharmacist in the back, but you don't think about that they have one of the most beneficial IT apprenticeship programs in the country. So Walmart came to us and they said, we have a perception problem. We need to understand what Gen Z thinks about us so that we can shift that, understand it, and create a strong, robust pipeline. So a lot of times we help companies understand that perception and then they can grow that pipeline of talent. Caterpillar, I think, is an interesting one. Everyone thinks we work with corporate. We work with their technician positions across the country. So they have programs like Think Big, pre-apprenticeship programs, paid back reimbursement. So we work with them recruiting directly from high school into these technician positions and also working on D&I efforts. So targeting more females within the skilled trades. The first time we started reaching out to talent on our platform, we reached out to talent that was interested within skilled trades. It was over 35,000 users. 25% of those members said that they had never heard of Caterpillar. I sat in on that meeting after that, and I will tell you that just because certain generations might know that name and it's a house brand name, Gen Z is a little bit different, and it's so important to get those opportunities in front of them early and often. So now we're working on that with Caterpillar. I think our overall population is important to share. This is who we reached out to understand what they think about the crane industry. So we've got over 1.7 million users today. This number is actually 1.8. This grows organically by 1,000 to 2,000 users per week. We've got over 29,000 high schools represented and over 4,700 colleges. You'll see our geographic breakdown here. We are located in all 50 states. So in addition to those partners you saw on the previous screen, We also do what we call workforce initiatives, where we build Tallo into regions, industries, or states. So if we think about the state of South Carolina, we are built into their high schools. So that means that when students are starting their freshman year experience, they are creating a Tallo profile, and we are scaffolding Tallo into the curriculum. So within that state, we work with a group that promotes advanced manufacturing. And so we work with them to promote those opportunities within the high school so they know what's in their backyard. Whenever workforce initiatives come to us, their goal is always to retain and attract talent within their area or their industry. Top career interests, healthcare, STEM, and business. This is something we're going to hit on. It goes back, and I'll probably say it 10 more times today. Talent doesn't know what they don't know. And so it was really interesting when we took a look at who filled out your survey for perception. Some of these top career interests were on it. So I think something that I heavily work with employers and organizations with is, don't just think, if you get in front of them early enough, you don't just have to target those that you think already have your career interest, right? Like, let's go after healthcare. They're in high school. They're not sure they want to be a surgeon yet, right? You might have an opportunity that we could get in front of them. And if we do it early enough, you could change their mind, or you could be something that fits what they want to do for education and career. And then diversity breakdown as well. So over 40% of our population identifies as a racial or ethnic minority. So a lot of companies' workforce initiatives are coming to us now to work on D&I efforts. I use Caterpillar as an example just because it's closely related, I think, a little bit. But their technician positions have been historically male dominated, and they really want to change that narrative. So a part of, their plan with partnering with Tallo is getting these opportunities in front of more females. And they have a bunch of female talent that's gone through their Think Big program that will connect with our talent and share about their experience and about their opportunities and how they really enjoy it. So working on changing that perception or changing that narrative to be able to work on those D&I efforts. So that's a little bit of a background about Tallo. I think it's important to understand the background to, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, to really give credibility to be able to do these types of what we call perception analysis. So I used the Walmart example prior, but again, NCCCO came to us and they said, we want to understand what early talent thinks already and what they want to know about the crane industry. And I was so excited because a lot of the times in my meetings, I have to convince people that this is the first step in order to set up a successful pipeline. But when they came to us, they already knew. They knew that we had to do this in order to then have a meeting like this and share these types of results to better position you all within that early talent recruitment space. So I'm really excited to share all of this. The way that it works, and I think that's important, so we're going to skip around a little bit with this executive summary, is we have a team of data scientists. So don't worry, I don't do it. They just put together this beautiful summary for me to be able to share. But we've got a team of 6 data scientists who conduct the research. So I think NCCCO partnered with us maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So they've been working on this for quite some time now, but we send a survey out to all of our users. So you just saw that 1.8 million users. We post it under what we call the opportunities tab to gain organic traffic to the survey, but then we also push it out through direct messaging efforts to also gain applicants. What I found really interesting when I had first met with our data team was most of your survey responses were from organic foot traffic. 2 things to really point out there. 1, on Tallo, all of our data is self-reported. So we don't auto batch upload any student, any user data. This means that they're way more engaged. They know they're on Tallo, they're looking for opportunities. And to lean in on that, Gen Z is really looking for opportunities. Like, they want to learn, which I think is a little bit different from other generations. So I think they're very open-minded to understanding different industries and different educational and career pathways. So essentially what that team does is they put out that survey, we keep it out for a certain amount of time, and then we collect those applicants, they clean the data, they go through it all, they go through all the questions, and then they provide all of these results for us to understand what talent thinks about your industry and how we can move forward from there. As I said, we're located in all 50 states, so that's where the survey, all the users were coming from. And for this particular one, we did high school and college students. And I think there's some interesting facts that we're going to see for that. Back to Caterpillar, like they were very much, we only want to focus on high school. But one fact that we've really learned from Gen Z is that a lot of them are getting to college in that first year or two and saying, whoa, these student loans are big. Is this going to be a direct return on investment? Is this going to be worth it? And so we've started with skilled trades and different job opportunities and apprenticeships within those industries to target freshmen and sophomores in college. And we've seen a lot of great results. So of course, technical and community colleges, but even four-year institutions, I think you get on campus and it starts making a little bit more sense. And this might be an alternative, for example, for Caterpillar that we've seen a lot of success. So we've gotten over 1,100 applicants. This is huge. Like we had an internal meeting that we were so excited about this number. When we did Walmart's, which I shared with you before, we only got 821. I think Walmart has a little bit more brand recognition, whether it be positive or negative. They have a little bit more brand recognition than I think NCCCO does. And so for that number to be higher was really awesome. Also, to lend to the credibility, right? Like we want to make sure that the perception that we're gaining is a holistic approach to the student population on Tallo, the user population. So our calculated margin of error was 2.97%. The lower the calculated margin of error is, the more random the sampling is, which is exactly what you want. So that allows us to say that we are 95% confident of the talent in the United States that the survey had of the respondents. Now, a little bit breakdown of that data. So who were those 1,100? So my eyesight's going a little bit. So 50% of our users came from high school, and then 44% came from college. I love that these numbers are really close to each other. The reason of that is it's pretty split 50-50. A lot of times when we do these types of perception data, like one will be very skewed up versus the other because it is just organic survey collection. And so I found it interesting that from our population where we're a little bit more heavily college leaned currently, we still got a really large response from high school, which just shares to me that there's definitely interest at that level. You'll see the geographic breakdown. I think this really matches, just our talent in general. We've got bigger states always have more users where we've got workforce initiatives, but every state is represented. And I really do like to see that when we do these perception surveys. The next one I think is really interesting. So within their profiles, they share what their future plans are, AKA what are their next steps? What do they want to do next? And a lot of times everyone says, oh, they just want to go to college. That's what everyone puts. But what we thought was very interesting, and one of our key takeaways was that over 44% of those users who responded to the survey said no next steps available. That means that they aren't sure what they're going to want to do yet. And that just proves that when you get in front of them within high school, you still have an opportunity to change their mind. And what's really nice about Tallo is you're directly communicating with them, because I know a lot of times within workforce initiatives, we go directly to the high schools or we work with the teachers, but this self-reported data on Tallo is allowing us to see that some of this talent has no idea. And so typically after we do perception, the next step is to say, okay, let's target this talent. They have no idea what they want to do, and you have an opportunity to get in front of them. You'll see the gender breakdown. A lot of females responded. I like this for D&I efforts if that's something that you as an industry or you as a particular company is working on. I will say overall we have a lot of females on the platform, but still this is skewed pretty high female. And then you'll see our D&I race and ethnicity below. So over 68% of our respondents were a racial or ethnic minority. I think this is great. I don't know personally within your industry or your company if you're working on D&I efforts, but a lot of that organic traffic to the survey were these people, and that would be a great way to work and continue to work on D&I efforts within your particular organization. So this is kind of like a background about, of those 1,100 users, what was the breakdown, understanding where they were coming from, located within the US, and what level within their education or their career that they're at. Now, when we start getting into the perception data, we think this is really interesting. So this is what I've been kind of talking about throughout the presentation. So in order to convert pipeline into talent, you have to attract and you have to build. And the only way that you can do that is understanding like what they think. So if we look at the top, are you interested in learning more about types of careers in the crane industry? I think overwhelmingly, this is a really positive response rate. So you've got 32% that says, yes, we do want to learn more. You've got 42% that said, yeah, maybe, I think we could, a little bit in between. And then you've got 24% that says that they're not so interested in learning, which they could still want to learn. But from the majority, there's interest in learning about the crane industry. And sometimes we get into positions when we're talking to industries or particular companies where these numbers are really skewed to, no, I don't want to learn anymore. And that's going to be a different approach. But something that your industry has is there's a willingness and there's an interest to understand what entails into this educational and career pathway. Now, even more interesting, if you look at bottom, if you answered yes or maybe, please choose the 2 most important topics you would like to learn about. Number 1 is career options. So people say my personality is very transparent. This talent has no idea what they can do within your industry. They have no idea what the career options are. And that is really, to me, negative, but it's very awesome because that's something you guys can completely work on through brand awareness and just getting these opportunities in front of talent. That is an overwhelming response. Like normally these numbers are very close to each other. It's like only off by 5 or 8 percentages all the way down to the last one. But 48% said that they really want to understand what career options are even available within the crane industry. So I think that's really powerful and understanding. And when we look at just the Gen Z data that we collect, they say that they want to hear, 71% of Gen Z says that they want to hear from a future employer before the job opportunity. And they go on to share that they want to hear from webinars like we're doing right now. They want to hear presentations if you go within the schools. So that would be great opportunities to get these career options in front of the talent. The next 2 were average hourly wages, and then benefits of a career in the industry. I think benefits kind of align with like what job opportunities are even within the crane industry. And so I just think there is a lot of interest in understanding more. Okay, so I thought this was really positive. Again, what we do is some of our questions are multiple choice, but then some questions we just give free response. And when we give free response, then we give a polarization metric to it, which you'll see a little bit later, like, is it positive? Is it negative? And what does that mean? So I thought, for the most part, these were very positive. And I'm not in the crane industry, so everyone in this meeting can interpret it a little bit differently. But what comes to mind when you think of the crane industry as a place to work? A lot of times we have to take these and change their perception. So you'll see here, construction, hard work, technology. Dangerous, I guess, could be maybe perceived as a little bit negative, but more realistic, I think. But you'll see those top words or phrases. Now, for the second part, 2 things that would most excite you about career opportunities in the crane industry. When TJ and I were reviewing this together, I think something we both really liked from their responses and thought was something that the teams and the companies and the organizations could lean into, because it was both on the first choice and the second choice, was working on a team. So they're perceiving this job and these opportunities in this industry as working in a team atmosphere, and that's coming off positive to them. So I think overall, sometimes these words and these phrases can be kind of negative for whichever industry or company that we're working with. But I thought overall these were pretty positive and maybe on brand or on target for this particular industry. Okay, so part of it is, we talk about, we give them multiple choices, but also we just say, what do you think of the crane industry? And with those 1,100 users, the most prevalent, 25 words that are used are on this page. Again, I think a lot of this is really positive. Working, managing, team, potential, problem solving, hourly. I don't think there's that many negatives on this. But again, this is like free response. When you think of the crane industry, what are some of those top words that you think about? And that's what's on this page here. So sediment data is also referred to as opinion mining. So this is an approach to natural language processing, which is also known as NLP. And so what it does is it identifies the emotional tone behind a body of text. So our users, when they're filling out this survey, are they saying it positively or are they saying it negatively? And are they saying it objectively? So it's a fact, or are they giving it subjectively, which would mean more of like an opinion? So you'll see here inside the feedback. So they had to scrape all this data, clean all this data to give this. TJ and his team will have a little bit more in depth, but just for this presentation, we thought this would be great to share. So positive, like they think positively about it, and they have low subjectivity to it, is fun, advanced, and male dominated. So we kind of spoke about that before. I think a perception of this industry and these job opportunities are more male dominated. So if that's something that we're looking to change, something you can do on Tallo is target females and share about the opportunity, something like that. And then challenging, exciting, and important, I think are really good as well. You'll see there. Then on the right-hand side, on the top is positive, and on the bottom is negative. So we did talk about dangerous, scary, and monotonous. I think it's good that they wrote these and for you all to understand these, because I think it's a great point of reflection to say, are these perceptions that we can change? This was the most common 3 words used negatively towards this particular industry. And this is what they had come up with. So I think these are great because these are, again, they're writing this in. We're not, giving them a multiple choice. These are the words that they're using to describe this particular industry. So if we scroll back a little bit from this, some of our executive takeaways, respondents view this career field as being fun, challenging, and important, which I think is awesome, but also hard work, dangerous, and monotonous. So that's kind of like, this is the positive and this is the negative. From here, what can we do to either shift it or how do we internalize it? What do we think about that? 23% of respondents have not identified their career interests. 34% of respondents are interested in a health science career and 24% interested in a STEM career. So this goes back to, if you get in front of them early enough, they will be interested in your industry as long as you educate them on what it's like to have an educational and career pathway within the crane industry. Respondents view this career field as being male dominated, and male respondents have an average polarity score 10% higher. So their males are viewing this industry a little bit more positive than females. 48% of the respondents plan to attend college as their next step, while 44% do not identify a next step. We already spoke about that one a little bit. When asked the most important topic that respondents want to learn more about, career options in the crane industry was the #1 topic selected by a margin of nearly 30%. I think I put that one home too. That is incredible that they want to hear and they need to hear what those opportunities are, because they've got no idea at this point. So summary and and recommendations, increase awareness of career variety, right? What is out there? What does a career within the crane industry look like? Target those unsure of their path. I said this before, whenever we do this perception, we look at who answered these questions, and from there we target specific groups based off of what's going to yield the best success. So a lot of this talent has no idea what they want to do. That is like a fruitful field to go to and start talking to. Increase positive awareness to females. We see that typically within skilled trades, and that's something you can work on with Tallo. Consider marketing to all early talent. So this is something that I stress so much. Like, we'll have companies and industries come to us and they say, we only want to focus on this particular, career interest because we know they'll show interest. But if you get in front of them early, you can change their minds, or you can open up their minds to what careers in education are out there. And then this kind of goes with just the everyday function. So only 10.8% of respondents are interested in building and fixing things, working with tools and working outside. Those with the lowest polarity scores indicated that these are the first things that come to mind when thinking about careers in the crane industry. So I think understanding what career options are out there, but also addressing the day-to-day function. So what does the day-to-day look like within the crane industry, I think would be really helpful for our users and just early talent in general. We provide a data dictionary because, come on, we're all not data scientists out here. So it's a good way of everything that I just spoke through to be able to see that. And then just really quickly, TJ asked me to provide some of these within here too. This is just general, like you got to meet them where they're at. So I think I shared that 73% would be more inclined to work for an employer if they connected with them before seeking a job. So I think a lot of times we have recruitment teams and talent acquisition come to us and they're so frustrated because they're just trying to fill this opportunity, and they're doing it on Indeed or ZipRecruiter, and they're not matching with the talent. And I think they're, spending that time up front and educating talent and growing a pipeline, like tenfold your success as you move forward. And it just proves that they want to hear from you and they want to understand more about your company and your industry. Some other facts that I thought were interesting on here: 75% of our talent, and this is when we survey all of our talent, not for the crane industry specifically, would be more inclined to work for a future employer if provided more information through employer connection, informative webinars, and or a Q&A session. So just like what we did today, like they want to hear and they want to be informed, and they're going to show up. So a lot of times we work with our companies and our industries to invite our talent to webinars, right? Learn about the industry, learn about the career, start making those connections. And then the workforce entry on the last slide of the screen, or the right hand side, it just shows how talent is reconsidering that 4-year path, and sometimes they're reconsidering that in their first 2 years within that 4 years. So kind of targeting that talent as well as maybe being an alternative. Okay, I talked a lot, so I will now turn it over to TJ.
Thank you, Hannah. Before we get to the Q&A, I just want to provide everyone with a quick overview of the NCCCO Foundation and why we're working with organizations like Tallo to do things like this perception survey and other ways the foundation intends to support the crane industry. So as you can see on the screen here, the foundation has 3 strategic goals: where education, research, workforce development. The perception survey is a great example of one of the initiatives we are working on to help us achieve our goals, and really is only the beginning. Around education, we're continuing to provide the industry with information that is useful and important. Our annual industry forum held each October gives the industry the latest on OSHA requirements and activities, what's new with certification, and the latest on safety in the industry. With regular webinars like the one today, the foundation is now providing education year-round. So we're also working on developing other relationships that are going to help improve the resources available to the industry going forward. In the area of research, in addition to the work that we're doing here with Tallo, we've also embarked on several initiatives related to national research on safety and workforce. So we are also working right now with the National Safety Council to learn more about the safety issues that those in the crane industry are facing on a day-to-day basis, which we intend on sharing with the industry later this year. We're also embarked on some research related to workforce development. And so that workforce development research will help provide us more information about a better understanding about who's working in this industry, what it's like to work in the industry, why they started, why they stay, and the skills they need to be excellent and successful in this industry. And so hopefully will give us overall information about the ways the foundation can use that information to help improve the industry, both in safety and related to workforce development. Finally, we're going to use that workforce research and information that was collected in this perception survey to develop new tools and resources that will be available to everyone for use in their career discovery efforts, career awareness, and career engagement efforts. We believe all these projects, plus many more that we're developing, will make this a safer and better crane industry. If any of that sounds interesting to you and you want to learn more, I invite you to follow us on LinkedIn or visit our website or sign up for our email list or do all of those in order to be get the announcements and be aware of the different projects and information that we have coming out to the industry. So with that, I will not belabor it anymore, and I will go to our Q&A session. Again, if you've got any questions, please feel free to add them into the Q&A box that's provided on the Zoom screen. I'll read those out so everybody can hear them, and then Hannah or myself can answer them. So the first question here, Hannah, we have for Gen Z, is Facebook considered the same level as LinkedIn because they say old people, quote unquote, are on it? Would this be a platform to showcase our crane organization?
I think that's a really good question. And we ask Gen Z and early talent all the time, like where they want to hear from future employers. And sometimes we're very specific, like, do you want them to be on Instagram or TikTok? But sometimes we're a little bit more general, like, do you want to connect with them on a more professional platform? Or is it more of like a social media type of app? And overwhelmingly, it's always a professional platform or email. So we don't necessarily always ask Facebook. And truthfully, I'm not sure if they're really on Facebook that much. When we do ask about social media, it's always like the top 3 that Gen Z is on right now. So we legitimately have a team at Tallo that's all Gen Z that's looking at where they're at, because you got to meet them where they're at to be able to connect with them. And most times it's like Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram. So like, second part of that question is like, Tallo has an Instagram account. So I think like if you're looking to just share about your company and have some type of presence, I don't think it's necessarily so bad. But when you go to engage with them and have that professional conversation about a job opportunity or an internship opportunity, I think that's where they want it more on a LinkedIn, or I know that's where they want it more on a LinkedIn or a Tallo or an email. But I think having a social media presence, I think would be more helpful on like a TikTok or an Instagram, because that's where Gen Z is right now.
Great, thank you. That's helpful. Another interesting question here, is Gen Z utilizing quote unquote essential business versus non-essential business in their career decisions?
That's a really good question. So I don't have a like complete answer for that. So what I'm thinking about is like how our talent fills out their profile and what they share. So they pick career interests. They're tied to ONET. So like there's a lot of career interests that they can specifically choose from, but they don't have a category where they could pick essential or non-essential. But I do think that would be important. And like, if that was something that was to be in consideration or something that, you know, an organization or a foundation was interested in learning of, that's where we could use those perception surveys in order to reach out and find if that's something of interest. I know that they really, I don't know if this is totally going to answer the question, but something we hear from them all the time, they really want to do meaningful work. So I think it's a little bit different than like I'm a millennial, so I can talk about millennials and those a little bit older, like that, you know, it's all about like benefits, 401k and all that. They want to understand like the culture, like the mission. They want to have all of that kind of understanding as they're having those conversations. So I think that, sharing more about your company and the purpose of it and what you guys do, I think is really important. So I do think meaningful work is very important and something that we keep seeing come back on these surveys when we just reach out to all of our talent.
Great, thanks. Another question. So what action items would you recommend for those of us new to early workforce recruiting when we are specifically targeting brand awareness?
We get this question all the time. And what I find so funny about this question and what's so true about it is that I think when we work with companies and organizations, there's a level of like nervousness, like, well, what do we even say to them type of thing? Or what do they want to hear? Or what do we want to, what should we put out? And my message always is consistency. So it's just like, a sales process or athletic recruitment model. And like, you have to be consistent with your outreach to stay top of funnel for this talent. And I'm not saying like every week, but even if you reached out quarterly and you just shared about your industry or about your company or initiatives that you have going on or a team building exercise, like they just want to hear overall, oh, that's a good one, culture. Like, what is your culture like? What is it going to be like if they are in that position? And it's got to be consistent as your outreach. So that's something that Tallo really focuses on, like understanding your tools and your resources and how can we use all that to strategize what that outreach is going to look like. Are we going to set up webinars? Are we going to set up a marketing campaign? Are we going to set up adding you to our events, different things like that? But it's just consistently showing up and having some type of order that I think is what really yields success for our clients as far as reaching out to that early talent.
Excellent. We've got somebody that's with a crane company that they're interested in starting a mentoring program, and whether you have any research or any experience with companies having successful mentoring programs.
I love this question. So mentorship is a great way to get in front of early talent and to connect with them. So we personally do all types of mentorship programs that we are the technology solution behind it for companies, but you don't have to use us. Mentorship is a great way to connect with early talent and be able to help them with educational and career pathways. So for an example, we do Boeing's mentorship program. So I think it's like 400 mentors, 400 mentees. So those that work at Boeing, those at high school that are committed to a STEM educational pathway, whether that be through a 2-year, 4-year, or technical school, they use our technology to connect. And then they set up different scaffolding of like, oh, this is what they do within their day of the life, or this is how you can contact them. This is how they get promotions. This is what you should do for interviews. So I feel like mentorship is such a smart way of getting in front of talent, making connections and growing that network. I know we are hosting a webinar in October. We've outsourced this company that kind of like walks you through how to build a mentorship program. And so they're going to kind of talk through that. So maybe that's something I can share with TJ if there's interest in joining that, because it's not Tallo, it's just an outsider, but just sharing about how to start that mentorship program, but excellent way of getting in front of early talent.
Great. That's good to know. Thank you. And please share it and I will share it with attendees. Another question, do you see a trend with Gen Z having issues with instant gratification? For example, technicians and operators for cranes takes trainings, but it doesn't happen overnight, and does take time to get to get through that. What's your feeling about Gen Zs and kind of instant gratification need to do that?
So that's interesting that that's the point you're bringing up, because when I bring this from our most recent survey that we did, Gen Z is planning to stay at their first employer 3+ years, which to me is pretty significant versus generations in the past. So we've actually seen that when they get to that first job opportunity, they want to stay there. And that kind of all goes back to connecting with them and growing that relationship prior to offering them the opportunity. Because if you just offer them the opportunity, there's no real connection there, right? You're not like warming that network. You're not getting them excited. You're not connecting them with people maybe already in your organization or already within your company. So we've seen that they want to stay there, but I do think there needs to be work up front in order for them to feel that connection so that they can see that growth path and they're educated on that.
Excellent. Somebody also asked about if we're going to provide the study out to the industry. So yeah, the answer is we are going to be, as Hannah mentioned, there's even more in-depth information that we are being provided from the study. You've given kind of the great overview of everything. And so our plan is to provide, as we start going through and analyzing it and coming up with other recommendations and stuff. So the foundation is going to provide that out to the industry. We'll have a recording of this webinar for sure available to folks in the next few days. We'll be putting that out there and sharing a link with everybody. But as we get more information, we'll be using it, as I said, to kind of develop more of our programs, but also being able to provide it to others and get the information themselves so they can use it and dice it up. That's what the foundation is here for, to support the industry as a whole. I'm not seeing any other questions right now, Hannah. This has been fantastic. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't been able to touch on?
I think the only thing that I would share just once more to reiterate it is that a lot of times I come on these and I present and there's not a lot of interest. So like we have to grow that interest. And I think what we found so interesting and exciting about this particular perception survey, because we've done a lot of these, is that like they want to hear about the career options and they overwhelmingly want to. So like it's there. We just need to do the work in order to get them more educated about this particular industry. So I think that like this number might not look so big, but it's awesome. And it's really powerful that, you know, the floor is your guy. You know what I mean? Like it's there. It's just we have to put in the work to educate this talent and get them into this pipeline and get them interested in the crane industry. So that's the only thing that I would add. And then just thank you so much for having me. I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, it's been very helpful, very encouraging. Thank you very much for being on here. I'd ask that everybody keep an eye out for both the future webinars we have coming up in September and November. We will also be sending out a brief survey after the end of this webinar. Please, we welcome your feedback. Please provide that so we can continue to improve. Thanks again to Hannah, to the folks at Tallo, and for everybody for joining us for this NCCCO Foundation webinar to discuss this important topic. We were glad to have you. Again, thanks for spending time with us, and hopefully you learned something. Look forward to seeing everybody next time. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.